can do what no other train can do. Race up a wall, defying gravity. Now the ultimate. You streak upside down through the giant loop. You turn out the lights and you're in night glow, streamlining the darkness. Take control of the fastest train in the world. Super Turbo Train, new from Tyco.
Here's the real thing in racing thrills. Here are Tonka's new Power Punchers, pocket-sized cars. You can rev them up and pow, pow, Power Punchers. You can race them and run them, jump them and bump them.
A Tonka toy will Tonka come for the fun, fun, fun.
A pocket full of fun. Power Punchers, each sold separately. New from Tonka.
Why don't you drive a Tonka?
Fun and adventure, that's what you get when you drive Tonka trucks like Mud Runner, Roving Wrecker, and Jeep CJ, each sold separately. Trucks so rugged, so powerful, you know they're Tonkas.
Someday you'll be driving one of these. Till then, keep driving those Tonkas.
Why don't you drive a Tonka?
Mud Runner, Jeep CJ, and Roving Wrecker come with everything shown here, each sold separately from Tonka.
Come with me to a place
you'll be glad that you did. With so much more, oh what a store with Toys R Us kids. It's a magical land, so where else would you go? When everything's at Toys R Us and prices are low.
If it's new and hot,
it's a toy they've got.
And the prices are hard to beat.
You can search the whole world for Toys R Us kids know. It's the one and only place to go.
More games, more toys, oh, fun!
It's the world's biggest toy store.
Now you can imagine all the power in the universe. The Masters of the Universe collection. 23 pieces, each sold separately. There's He-Man and these heroic action figures. Skeletor and the Warriors of Evil, and 4 fighting creatures. Castle Grayskull, Point Dread, and the Talonfighter. You put them together. And battle machines like the Attack Track, batteries not included. What would you do with all the power in the universe? He-Man, Skeletor, and all other items from the Masters of the Universe collection. Each sold separately. From Mattel.
So the girl filled her cart in the Toys R Us store. And when that cart was filled with toys, she filled up 15 more.
Get Mattel's Feeling Fun Barbie with neat denim outfit at a great everyday low price. And Barbie's Ice Cream Shop from Mattel is the coolest place in town. The ice cream cart lets your child make real ice cream. Another great buy at Toys R Us.
Love growing up with my Toys R Us kid.
Toys R Us. You'll never outgrow it.
There's the Autobot Defense Base! But where are the Autobots? Who cares? Decepticons are gone! Oh no, look!
It's Omega Supreme!
Introducing the Autobots Omega Supreme Defense Base. It comes with a...
Welcome, geeks and nerds, girls and boys, to a brand new edition of Geek to Me Radio. Today we'll be talking with Fabian Nicieza all about his work in the Marvel promotional and ads department. You're going to see a lot of cool retro ads, a lot of cool vintage posters. We'll talk about his hand in developing them, all that and more. Stand by.
We're talking TV, comics and movies, and video games. And if you don't know Star Trek from Star Wars, we'll try to explain. There are 12 doctors for Hogwarts houses, 1 ring rules them all. To be the greatest Pokemon master, you must catch them all. You must catch them all. Try to catch them all. Gotta catch them all. Gotta catch them all.
And if you're driving around the greater St. Louis area tonight, hearing us on the Big 550 KTRS, welcome to you. If you're watching the stream on Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, hello. On Instagram, hello, and thank you for watching there. If you have not already hit the subscribe button on YouTube and Twitch, if you would please do that. We're trying to bump those subscription numbers up before the end of the year. And if you're listening to this after the fact online in the podcast form, thank you very much for finding us there as well. Very stoked to talk to our next guest. He's been a guest on the show before. I pre-recorded an interview with him live at Planet Comic Con. And then we ran into each other at another show. Now we've got him live to talk all about the promotions and artwork he did for all these in-house posters, all these great vintage posters. You can see some of them behind me here. Fabian Nicieza. I had to go back and look up how to pronounce your last name because I almost ruined it the first time we talked, so I did my research.
You still kind of got it wrong, but that's okay. You did a great job.
I thought I'd pat myself on the back prematurely. So sorry.
Excellent effort.
Thank you for that. Before we get too much into the posters, I want to make sure we talk about Suburban Dicks. Congratulations on that book, by the way.
Thank you very much. Oh, I don't have a copy of the book with me. Thank you. Suburban Dicks was my debut novel. It came out in June of last year. The book was nominated for an Edgar Award by the Mystery Writers of America. I'm nominated in the Best First Novel by an American Author category. So I'm hoping to possibly eliminate my competition so that I can win the award come April. I don't know, an accidental brake line cutting accident on their cars, who knows. The book will be out in paperback in May, and the sequel, which is titled The Self-Made Widow, will be coming out in June, hardcover from Putnam Publishing.
And yeah, we talked about that. If you want to pre-order that, definitely pre-order the book. That way you make sure you get your copy as soon as it comes out, if not maybe a little bit beforehand. Yep. Are you doing many conventions in 2022, or people want to bring the book to you?
I want to get back into it. I obviously there's been a real lack of that happening. I went to New York Comic Con, which actually turned out great. It worked out really well considering the constraints and limitations. And I want to get back to doing more. So I've been entertaining certain offers. I think I'm committed to go to Terrific Con in Connecticut.
Oh, great.
And I'm talking to other places. I've just fallen into a bit of a trap where I've decided that in my life I'm not going to go to states that are doing things, politically speaking, shall we say, that I find reprehensible. So apparently that's cutting off quite a number of states.
Well,
in terms of my going to visit the conventions there, and that's always a catch-22 for me too, because it's the people who are coming to the shows are the kind of people that I'm very comfortable seeing and being with, and part of me feels like, is that punishing the people who are living in these states that don't necessarily have a say or a voice in that kind of legislative trap that gets sprung on them. But the other side of me says, I don't feel comfortable bringing economic anything to a location that is doing things that is quite frankly hurting our people in our country. Yeah. So conventions are a little bit of a juggle right now.
Yeah, I get it. It's a lot to weigh and everything to consider. But I know if you are able to go, I guess you'll have copies of either books. If they're after the June 21st date, you'll have Self-Made Widow copies there. People can buy from you and get signed and everything like that.
Any shows I do afterwards, I'm going to have copies of the book for sure. I did a little experiment just to see how I could sell them at my table at New York Comic Con, and I think I sold 25 of the copies I had, and I got another 25 from a bookseller that was selling at the show. We sold 50 copies in less than a day and a half at the show. So I said, I got to have copies of the book here because, quite frankly, I know that I can move them at the table if I'm there. And I want to sell more copies of the book, not even financially for me. I want to sell more copies of the book so that people get their hands on it and the publisher goes, hey, we're selling more copies of the book. So yeah,
that's good.
The goal is definitely any show I do, I'll work out a scenario with a bookseller in New York where I'll have copies available at whatever show I end up doing.
Very cool. And we have in the chats Chance Bartles. Hello to you and the Nostalgia Blast podcast listening live in Atlanta. Thanks very much for listening tonight. Talking about all the work you've done. So I looked at your bio because your website's great. It gives a lot of information. You've got some of the pictures there that we're going to discuss tonight. So basically, that's how you got your in at Marvel, was working in the ads and promotions department. That's how you kind of got started with the company, if I'm not mistaken.
Kind of yes, but not really. My first, I was hired technically as an assistant to the manufacturing director of the Marvel Books department. And that was in August of 1985. And the Marvel Books department is not what you might think of it now, which is trade paperbacks and hardcover books, because the company did very little of that back then. Marvel Books was actually an imprint that was started as a result of a licensing deal the company had signed with Fisher Price.
Oh.
So they were doing all these activity books and sticker books and coloring books. And the woman who did all of the manufacturing on that needed an assistant, and that's how I got my foot in the door in 1985 after working at Berkeley Publishing for 2 years out of college. And 4 months after she hired me, I found out that someone who ran the promotions in the direct sales department was looking to hire an assistant. Ironically, his name is Steve Saffel. He was the person who was hired over me when I interviewed in 1983 for that job.
Oh.
And he deserved the job. He had much more experience and he was much more qualified than I was right out of college, but he needed an assistant. So I wanted that job because I wanted to get my foot in the door in the promo department. And ironically, when he was hiring me, he was also having a boss hired over him, and he didn't even know it at the time. And all of a sudden, we had a director of a promotions department with Steve and me, and then we brought in the woman who ran publicity already. We brought in ad sales, which was a different guy, and all of a sudden, we had a little mini department. We weren't seated together for almost a year and a half after, but we were a department. And after a year, so we're looking at, by the end of '86, Mark Erickson, the director of the department, named me the advertising manager, and he named Steve the promotion manager. So Steve's responsibilities were conventions, all the press that we did to the direct market, all information regarding ad solicitations, making sure that he was working with the direct sales department, that the stores got things they needed. He ran all our convention presence. My job then became all of our house ads, all of our promotion posters, all of our promotional giveaways, subscription ads, and then little by little, but we were doing more and more, so it became sell sheets and co-op ads, and a lot more from that as well. So, but that in '86, I was already doing a lot of that work through '86, but by the end of '86, I officially became the advertising manager as my title.
So I know you were very kind. You sent over a few email files with some of the stuff, and then I kind of tried to go through my collection and pull some stuff that I knew I had that you'd worked on. So we've got the Fall of the Mutants poster, which I remember seeing it when I was a little kid in a comic book store, and it was kind of haunting, I guess is the best word. I was like, whoa, all these people are going to die? I'm kind of blown away. So Joey's got it up on the screen, and I've got the full size, because I was telling you off air before we started that I get these and I get them framed, custom framed, and then I try to take them to conventions to get them signed. Obviously, I'd have to have Chris Claremont, Alan Davis, and a couple other people sign these. I was actually fortunate enough to meet at Terrificon, but I couldn't fit this on the plane with me. But so talk a little bit about the idea behind this. I mean, it speaks for itself, but talk a little bit about the idea behind creating this image.
They had the crossover planned. In this particular case, I think the Niceza X-Men office had the title already. I'm pretty ssure Fall of the Mutants came before Extinction Agenda. That's when we actually helped name the crossover. Mm-hmm. But the Fall of the Mutants was pretty succinct. The whole idea was supposed to be, in Chris's hyperbole, that the teams were going to fall apart. Whatever was established as a status quo was really going to get ruptured as a result of the storyline. So I just came up with the visual concept of all of them down and dead. And I don't remember whether the copy line is something I came up with or something that Chris and Ann Nicieza, the editor, had come up with. They tended to be really good about providing the content that I would need to put it together. But then they came up with the copy. They came up with a triptych idea that we did for Inferno.
Yeah.
So I worked well with that office, and I liked working with Ann and Chris on that stuff. Chris might have come up with It's Always Darkest, but I honestly don't remember. I know that I came up with the layout because I drew the layout. I drew the poster that you see.
Oh, wow.
Is a rough that I drew on like an 11 by 17 piece of regular photocopy paper, and then I roughed it out and sent it to Alan and said, this is what I had in mind. What do you think? Which is how I work a lot with the artists. I'm not a good enough artist to do it professionally, but I was a good enough artist to at least put it down on paper, not even fully rendered or anything like that. It was all really rough, loose figures, but I even placed some of the characters where I thought I wanted some of the characters to be. Alan came back and said, conceptually, I think it's a really good idea. This is really going to work. We knew we were going to be doing it as a blue line piece of artwork, which meant all the color was done on a separate plate from the pencils and the inks. It's actually hand colored.
Oh, wow.
And then the black plate overlays it. That was called blue line coloring, and it was becoming kind of vogue back then at the time. And I did that on a lot of my ads and posters because it gave it a pretty rich painted look without it being literally a full painting. So Alan, as all the artists do, made me realize why I'll never be an artist because I'm never going to be good enough. He submitted I think him and Mark just did the pencils and inks over in England and then sent me the whole finished piece. And the finished piece really was just the black plate you see. They had rough lines laid out for the clouds and for the sun, but that was all going to be done in color. So it wasn't as vital. It really was the black and white that you see on the poster itself. And I'm trying to remember who I had colored. I had a stable of about 4 or 5 guys that were doing really good blue line work for me. This one might have been Bill Ray, who's a really well-known artist and painter and cartoonist, worked on Ren and Stimpy cartoon. This might have been Bill Ray, but I don't want to give him credit for sure because I'm not 100% sure who did it. So they do the painting, I scan it, and then I have my acetate transparency of the scan, and then that's what gets reproduced everywhere else you see it. The house head, the poster, any black and white work I had to do for it, which probably was for like co-op ads and sell sheets. I then just had the background roughed out and finished in the bullpen with Ramita's Raiders, which was the production corrections guys, who were all professional artists getting training by working in the office and helping do things just like this, corrections and quick ad work I needed done, and the things that the comics needed done, like corrections or quick covers and things like that.
And if you're just now tuning in, we are talking with writer Fabian Nicieza.
You're just going really away from it. You're as far away from it.
I should have left it as I had it the first time.
You know what? I've just decided I'm going to let you pronounce it differently all throughout the day, and then at the end of the show, I'll tell you how to pronounce it right.
We'll have a little clicker every time you mispronounce it. We'll just see how many times I get up to by the end of the show.
We need a buzzer. We need some sort of electric shock to run through you every time you get it wrong.
Joey, can you rig up an electric shock through the board real quick? Is that possible? All right, Joey will set it up during the
I'm sure he'd love to.
He probably would. But yeah, if you're just tuning in, we're talking all about the ads and promotional and everything, all the work that he did to create all these great Marvel posters you've probably seen. We're going to take a real quick commercial break. We're going to come back. We'll have him with us for the rest of the hour. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio right here on the Big 550 KTRS. Stay tuned.
Fighting to keep it from Mumra, whose wicked eyes light up with a secret ring. Thundercats take to the Thunder Tank, transforming to resist the evil mutants. Who will win, good or evil? Now you can decide. Thundercats by Rainbow Toys.
Spin the spinner and call the shot. Twister can tie you up in a knot. 1 foot here and 1 foot there. The spinner says what, you decide where. You reach, you stretch, you balance and twist. You try it once, you get the gist. No 2 twists come out the same. Twister is a Milton Bradley game.
Twister from Milton Bradley. with Pi Insurance. Ask your agent for Pi or get a quote today at trypi.com. That's TRYPIE.com.
Hi, this is Karan Soni, and you're listening to me on Geek to Me Radio. Lucky you.
Don't call it a comeback.
We are back on Geek to Me Radio. This segment brought to you by our official comic book store, Bugs Comics and Games. If you go to their website, bugscomicsandgames.com, you can check out their online store if you are from outside the greater St. Louis, St. Charles area. If you are within the city limits, they are right in O'Fallon off of Bryan Road. Brand new. This store just opened October 31st. And I used to go to this store. Larry Quiggins, the owner, owned a store up in Florissant where I grew up. I used to get on my bike and ride my bike up there. I'd pick up New Mutants and New Warriors and all the stuff that Fabian was working on back then when I was riding my bike to the comic book store. So he took a break. He did some teaching at a university. He's now decided to go back into the comic book store business. I love brick and mortar comic book stores. I love supporting small businesses. Hopefully you do too. So you can go to their Facebook page. Give their Facebook page a like. Let them know you appreciate that they've opened up a store. It's Bugs Comics and Games on Facebook. And make sure you check them out. If you are part of their Avengers Discount Club, we have all sorts of inflation, prices going up. One way to save money is by joining a place that will give you a discount on your comic books, and Bugs Avengers Club does just that. You can start saving on your new comics, your back issues, your supplies, your games, all that good stuff. Check out the website. Once again, bugscomicsandgames.com. Very proud to have them as the official comic book sponsor here on Geek to Me Radio. We are chatting for the rest of this hour with Fabian. I won't even try because Joey's got the electric shock thing hooked up. But you know him, co-creator of Deadpool. He created a lot of the characters from New Warriors, a prolific writer. And, of course, his book Suburban Dicks is out. You can pre-order The Self-Made Widow. It will be out on June 21st. And we're talking about the in-house promotion ads that he did for Marvel from about 1986 to 1991, roughly.
And then I moved over to editorial.
One of my favorites that you did, I'm going to grab it. So for those of you who are watching, you'll see gorgeous black and white for Kraven's Last Hunt, which I got this one framed because it's got everybody's signature. I got Mike Zeck, I got Jim Salicrup, I got John DeMatteis, I've got Bob McLeod, Jim Shooter signed it, and this is one of my favorite pieces. JM was the last one I needed to have sign it. I took it to him at a convention in Richmond, and he goes, "Where? I don't even have one of these. Where did you get it?" And I was able to track down another one and send it to him. But
that's fantastic.
That's
wow.
how cool these posters are. Like, even the writers are like, "I want these. These are great."
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I don't even remember. I'm pretty sure that that each editorial office got a few copies of everything to disseminate. Now, whether they did or not wasn't my responsibility or, quite frankly, my concern. My job was to get it done and make sure that it was put in the hands of the people whose responsibility it was to get it out. The print runs on a lot of these things were low, though, because they were really only intended to go to comic shops. We'd increased the print run on some posters when we were going to be giving them away at conventions.
Right.
But it wasn't necessarily cost effective to give away 22 by 34 large posters at conventions. That's why we did the smaller 11 by 17 ones. You fold those once and they're easier to pack and ship, and they were more cost effective.
Oh, yeah.
They just didn't display as nicely in the store. The Kraven's Last Hunt one was very early in my tenure. I think that came out the year I wasn't even officially advertising manager yet. I worked with the design to get that put together, but really that was all them. The work they were doing was so gorgeous. I'm trying to remember if it was my idea to do it black and white, both because it would save money and increase my print run, but also because the art was so evocative. And the character had a black costume at the time.
Yeah.
So putting color on that poster wasn't even going to make that much of a dramatic difference visually. I thought that it could really work as it was. But that whole the whole art piece itself is just Zeck and Beatty being fantastic is all it really was. I kind of crammed all those covers in there because I wanted to show all 6 covers, because it was very rare back then that we would have all the covers to every part of a story.
Sure.
But because we were publishing all 6 issues, I think in a 2-month span, all the covers had been done in advance, and covers really help sell the book.
Oh, yeah.
The 2 things I learned and I tried to strive is Theme sells a book and a cover sells a book. If you can have theme and a cover at the same time, that's the best of all possible worlds. But you'll notice some of the house ads and some of the promo posters that you like the best don't even have the covers to the comics on them.
Right.
The Fall of the Mutants didn't have the cover of it. That wasn't a cover of any comic, you know. They used it recently or more recently on trade paperback collections, but that originally was commissioned solely for promotional work. But it sold the theme of the entire storyline. So certainly with the X books, it was a rarity to have covers in advance long enough that I'd have the time to use them for my promo purposes. Almost never, because the X books were always running so late. So often because the covers to things weren't done, and many of the big posters were for larger campaigns. Acts of Vengeance, Fall of the Mutants, even the Kraven's Last Hunt. You're talking about 6 issues, 8 issues, 12 issues of a large storyline. That's usually what was where promo dollars could be committed towards in certain capacities. I did work for everything, all different ways. But big ticket items like stories that were running multiple issues where you knew you were going to be selling and trying to sell even more of X amount of books rather than just a book. Really is where the promo dollars had to be budgeted smartly, because it was going to bring in more revenue to the company overall as a whole, more so than one book would, you know. And that's something editors really didn't understand, and I kind of had to work with them a lot on that. And I got along pretty well with almost every editor. It was a really good time at Marvel in the late 80s, very early 90s. We really had a very improved synergy between editorial, promotion, sales. We had good relationships between us. We improved our communication between all the departments. I was friends with a lot of the editors. Which makes a big difference in how you can get things done and how can accommodate each other's needs. And I think it reflected itself, because our sales, it is a coincidence, but I like to pretend that it's not, that our sales actively increased every single year from when I became advertising manager, and everything fell apart after I left.
Of course.
It's absolutely not true, everybody. I'm just joking. But our sales did increase every year.
Yeah.
87, 88, 89, 90, 91. There's a reason for that. And part of the reason for that was that the company was working in a much better unified fashion than it had before.
In the comments, we just had Nostalgic Pod Blast just mentioned that Secret Wars was really the first big crossover, and I think that kind of launched from there. That was obviously before your tenure, but the crossovers seem to be a staple after that. Like you mentioned, Extinction Agenda and things like that. Would you say, and again, I'm not asking you to say this editor did this, but did Shooter kind of set that precedent? Because I know he gets a lot of heat from people, but a lot of people, even at the time, who weren't really on his side, now look back and say he did a lot of good for Marvel during his tenure.
I don't think that there would be a Marvel today if Jim Shooter hadn't become editor-in-chief when he became editor-in-chief. I respect Jim tremendously, and when we get to see each other, I consider him a friend. But the truth of the matter is that often in that position, everything you do right ultimately becomes everything you do wrong later.
Yeah.
And Jim did a lot of things wrong later in his tenure as editor-in-chief. That should not and does not mitigate all the fantastic things he did before that. You can claim or you can decry Secret Wars on a qualitative basis if you so desire. That's your subjective call. On a quantitative basis, it cannot be denied. That book sold 500,000 copies per unit, and that was astronomical numbers, even by the standards of back then. Okay, and yes, it triggered a signal that the company then says, hey, this did great, we should be doing more of that, you know. So crossovers became a part of the publishing program. And as with all things in business and in companies, it becomes overdone. So because an editorial office has success with a crossover storyline like the X office did, then all of a sudden the Spider-Man office says, hey, I want to have a crossover too in my books because that's going to increase sales on my books.
et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So because everybody's competitive with each other, because each editorial office was in many ways its own fiefdom, it all was in under one, it lived in one country, but everybody, it's Italy 500 years ago or 400 years ago with mountain cities, mountain states, and all of them were individual states unto themselves, and they traded with each other, but they also fought with each other all the time. That's kind of exactly what editorial offices were like at Marvel and DC back then. You know, I can't speak to now, but back then they certainly were. So there was a lot of competition and one-upsmanship. So everybody started to want to do things that would help increase the sales of their books. Because quite frankly, sales of the books is the barometer both by which you earn your income, but also by how the company perceives your ability to do your job. For right or wrong, that's just the truth. You know, so the more your book sold, the better light and the better standing you had within the company.
One of the things that you mentioned, Acts of Vengeance, which to this day I will fight on the Hill that is the best Marvel crossover in the history of Marvel crossovers. I just love the idea, the concept. And this was the first time I remember seeing these shelf talkers for the books. So is that am I incorrect in thinking that's the first time you guys did these at Marvel?
I think they might have been. I honestly don't remember. I love
89.
those shelf. I love those. I think they might have been Carol Kalish's idea, and Carol Kalish was the vice president of direct sales, and she was a huge, important factor in the company and in the comics industry back then. The shelf talkers might have been her idea, and I loved them, so we did them whenever we could. The poster, which I'm so glad you have, because I have not seen that full color poster in so long.
I've got this one framed already, so the next time I see you at a convention, this is yours.
John Byrne penciled that. I did the Blue Line poster. I don't remember if I even did the Blue Line poster off the inks. I might have done the Blue Line posters off the pencils, and then the house ad and everything else was inked. I'm pretty sure a painter named Mark McNabb did the Blue Line coloring on that. The layout design, again, was mine. I drew that layout design. And I sent it to John, and I love John as an artist. He could be a little difficult as a human being, but he was a fantastic artist. So I sent that to him thinking, am I going to get yelled at? Is he going to just like try to rip me a new hole? You know, blah, blah, blah. He came back and he said, I love this idea. I'm going to move this, move that, and angle it a little more steeply. And that's what he gave me. And it was fantastic. I mean, it's an incredibly visual. It's not something that happens in the issue or in the books. It's not a cover to the book, but it's a theme that sells the story. You know, it sells it to Marvel nerds who want to pick out who the different legs belong to and who the shattered items belong to, which is kind of obvious, but it also sells to non-comic or non-Avengers readers, because they're going to look at that and they're going to think something's going on. And that's really all you want to do. You want to draw their attention and make them curious and question what the story's going to be.
And this was, again, I'll go back to the poster, because this is one at the bottom that actually had the different issue numbers and issues where you could find the crossover too. So it didn't have the covers, but it had, like, it was in Avengers Spotlights 24 through 28, and it was in Damage Control, that series 1 through 4, Fantastic Four. So it hit everybody. Spidey obviously had his cosmic powers at the time, but that was a crossover that everyone was affected in, and it was absolutely brilliant.
That's funny. I couldn't even fit all those issues into the house ad. The house ad just said September through December from Marvel.
Right, yeah, I remember the house ad for
the villains get theirs. That's all the house ad said.
Yeah, Joey's got that on the screen for those of you who are watching on the YouTube and Twitch and everything, but we had the poster up. And again, it's cool because you always, there's Dr. Doom, that one's Mandarin, this one's Dr. Doom. So it's kind of cool that you can tell just by the legs who part of that main group was that Loki was controlling. But again, that's always a favorite for me.
What I loved about those shelf talkers is I wanted you to get to the point that I wanted that to work in a way that the customer doesn't want it to work, because I wanted to show you the whole Shelf Talker. But the only way that you can show that is if you've sold out of the book that's in the rack space. So I wanted that book to sell out at the rack space just so you could see the whole thing.
Which, again, that would be a good problem for the retailers. I would think if the books are selling out, that should be a good problem for them to have as well.
Yeah, always it's about filling orders when people need them, and that's always been an issue in the marketplace. I think back then we were pretty responsive to it, but I again, that wasn't my job. That wasn't my bailiwick. That was direct sales' responsibility.
And I do have two more Shelf Talkers. I've got the Galactic Storm one, and I have the Infinity Gauntlet. This one I love because the other one, I've got George Perez signed this one for me at a convention, so this is very special to me now.
Both of those are after my time.
Oh, they were?
Yeah, Galactic Storm has to be after my time because I broke down that storyline editorially with Bob Harris and Mark Grunwald, and I'm positive I was an editor when we were working on that.
Okay, that was even in your thing you sent me, so I thought maybe that was a safe one to show.
Galactic Storm was?
Yeah. It's got the poster with Thor. It almost looks like a movie poster. And it's got Thor and Cap on the cover, the Supreme Intelligence of the Krees in the background. I didn't bring that poster with me, unfortunately.
Did I do that poster? I don't even remember now.
That's why I know we talked about it, and you're like, I don't think I did that one, but I could be wrong because you did so many.
I did. See, and James, that's the fun thing that we were at a point where we were probably producing 20 items a month between house ads, subscription ads, posters, co-op ads, sell sheets, and ancillary stuff. We were probably producing about 20 things a month.
Wow.
And it was a real. The only reason I left the job is because I realized I wrote a copy line and started to run it through the pipeline, and it was a copy line that I'd also written 3 years earlier. And my brain didn't even process it, and I just realized I'm getting burnt out on this because it's just too much. It's just too much material going through the pipeline, and someone else needs to be doing this because I think I've kind of hit a wall doing it. And I love the job. I always loved the job. I still loved it to this day. I still love that job. But I think sometimes you need to try something different. And that's why I switched over to editorial.
Absolutely. Again, if you're just now listening, we're talking with Fabian Nicieza. Was that
closer?
Closer. Okay, good. I'm kind of leaning back into the good direction. That's good. I don't get a full shock for that one, Joey, because he said it was closer. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back, chat more about house ads. We're going to tell you where you can pick up The Self-Made Widow on June 21st. All that and more with Fabian Nicieza. Please stand by.
Tyco 2. Tyco Superblocks. Military Adventure Series. 10 building sets, each sold separately. New from Tyco.
It looks so golden. Holds up to 40 Star Wars action figures, like new Squidhead and Emperor's Royal Guard, each sold separately. And besides the new C-3PO collector's case, there's a new Chewbacca bandolier strap. Fits over your shoulder for play and holds 10 action figures securely. Like new Princess Leia Organic and Reese, each sold separately. It even has pouches.
New C-3PO collector's case, Chewbacca bandolier strap, and action figures, each sold separately from Kenner's Star Wars Return of the Jedi collection.
Now you can grab the thrill of driving real Porsche race cars with Tyco Radio Control. Or get behind the wheel of real Indy car racers with Tyco Radio Control. Because you race them. You're at the controls of turbo Porsche race cars and turbo Indy cars. Scale speed up to 260 miles per hour. And when you need it most, you hit your turbo power to make the pass. Nothing else even.
TRYPIE.com.
Hi, this is Barry Bostwick, and damn it, Janet, would you just keep listening and come back to Geek to Me Radio, will you?
I've one thing to say, and that's damn it, Janet, I love you.
We are back. Geek to Me Radio, our official movie sponsor. Our official movie sponsor here on Geek to Me Radio, Marcus Theaters. If you go to the website marcustheaters.com, you can find the location of the Marcus Theaters or Movie Tavern located closest to you. Buy your tickets right there. The Batman coming out on March the 4th. That's going to be a big one, but there's a lot of good movies out currently, and we've got more just around the corner. So if you go to the website marcustheaters.com, you can find the location, buy your tickets. If you download the Marcus Theaters app for your smartphone too, you can have the app right there in the corner of your screen like I do. If you're driving around, hit the app. It'll tell you the one closest to you. You can even order your concessions from the app for a more contactless experience. And if you're celebrating something, anniversary, birthday, something fun coming up, you can rent a private theater at a Marcus or Movie Tavern location starting at just $99. You can book that through their website. You and 20 of your closest friends hang out in your own private theater and watch whatever movie you decide to book through that event. Great time to be had at the movies. It's one of the things I missed the most during the pandemic was movie theater popcorn, sitting in a dark room, laughing along with a crowd of other people as you watch a great movie. No better place to do it than Marcus Theaters. MarcusTheaters.com for the best movie-going experience in the galaxy. We are talking with Fabian Nicieza all about the work. Did I peak already? Am I already over the point where I got the best?
Oh, you're just burying yourself. It's good.
See, I'll just call you Fabian N from now on, just to save myself further embarrassment. But we're talking about all of his work on the house ads. I do want to make sure, again, you check out Suburban Dicks, which is out now, the novel he just won all these awards for and accolades for. And, of course, the second in the series, The Self-Made Widow, is out June 21st, and you can pre-order that now. Where's the best place for them to pre-order? Is it through your website, or would you recommend something else?
You can access it through my website, which is Fabian Nicieza. That's how it's pronounced. .com, or you can go to anywhere where books are sold. Any online sites where books are sold, and they're still on sale in like regular retail brick and mortar bookstores as well. But yeah, through my website, certainly you can access any of your preferred online vendors.
Very cool. And we're talking about all the Marvel stuff, and I was telling them we're probably have to do a lightning round. One of my favorite things is the mobiles, and I've got
I love the mobiles. Are so much work.
This Avengers mobile, I assume this is in your time period. I think it's got a copyright date.
Yeah, that was me. And Operation Galactic Storm, I think, was me too, but that's me bridging between advertising manager and editorial. So that's what threw me off. I remember the poster, but I don't know if I finished the poster.
Oh, okay.
The guy who took over from me is a guy named Dana Mooreshead, and he may have finished the poster. I just don't remember at this point. Gotcha. The mobile I remember because Paul Ryan did it, and I colored it from pencils.
Oh, wow.
Mark McNabb, again, color painted that. And all of it was done in a modular fashion. This mobile wasn't even as good. I think we did an Excalibur mobile, which was even better.
I've got that one too.
Where did you get these things?
eBay.
How did you get it? I have not seen that. I've not seen that in 30 years, that mobile.
There was a comic book store named Mr. Toons up in North County that was going out of business, and he knew I collected all this stuff. He's like, is there anything in the back that you want, like some of the displays? I said, well, what do you have? And I got this one, the Excalibur mobile, the Infinity War mobile. I've got the Secret Defenders, which I think that was past your time.
Even Infinity Gauntlet or whatever was post me too. I definitely did the Excalibur mobile, and I definitely did the Avengers one there. I like the Excalibur one better because I think they were all free floating figures.
Yeah, they were
for the most part, which I liked better. That was a little blocky for me, but there was no way we didn't have the ability then to really figure that out. I think I'm trying to remember if Excalibur came first or if Avengers came first. I don't know. We also did a blow-up Spider-Man balloon for the retailers. So it was a kind of a clunky-looking balloon, but back then that's as good as we could do. We're talking about 1986,
right?
And I love that. I actually have a balloon, a Spider-Man balloon blow-up in a box in the basement, straight from the manufacturer, never opened. I do have that. It has not been opened or blown up ever.
We've got some of the Avengers ads, too. You had the one that was, I love this Avengers ads from, I think it was probably the early 80s, I guess, right after you, or I should say late 80s, but early when you started, that has Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau, Black Knight, and Dr. Drew. That was the team I kind of started reading Avengers right around that time, but that was a great ad.
Oh, yeah, that's when Walt took over, I think, after Roger left the book and changed the team around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that piece. That was just... Buscema, that was fun because I didn't get to work very often with John Buscema, but when I did, he was always cranky, and he was really cranky about drawing a boring picture of a bunch of people standing up, and I said, "I'll pay him double rate." He goes, "All right, I'll do it," and he did it. He did it in like 25 minutes, I think.
Oh, wow.
And then Tom Palmer just finished it like he was doing on the book itself.
Oh, wow. That's a great one. I think
Part of the job was great because I got to hire and work with like just phenomenal artists, many of which I grew up reading and admiring. And as a writer, I wasn't going to get as much of an opportunity to work with many of these guys. I never got to work with John Buscema as a writer, and him being the artist. But through my advertising promo work, I got to work and interact with dozens and dozens of artists, many of whom were the guys from the 60s, 70s that I grew up reading.
Another one of the in-house ads that I love was the Hulk versus X Factor, and that was Todd McFarlane did the art. He was on the book at the time for Hulk.
He had just come on the book, and that was basically to promote him coming on the book without really promoting him because he wasn't a name yet.
Right.
We were trying to promote the Gray Hulk, and I think Hulk got like 2 ads in a 4-month span or something, which didn't happen that often. And that was very early in my tenure before I was officially advertising manager, I think. And I remember a couple editors being complaining that Hulk got 2 ads in a short period of time. But Peter was doing some things that were worthy of advertising, and we wanted to get the book on an upward track because Byrne had left it abruptly, and that had thrown off the book's sales and stuff. So when Peter came on, we were just trying to give it a push. And quite frankly, Peter was a friend because he worked in direct sales and I worked in promotion, and I wanted to give him a push because he kind of got screwed on writing Spider-Man when he was writing Peter Parker's Spectacular Spider-Man. So I kind of had a vested interest in making Peter's book sell if I could help him, So yeah, that kind of stuff went on plenty. Don't worry about it.
And if you're listening right now, if you go to geektomeradio.com, we do have a great interview with Peter David where he talks about taking over the Hulk book. It's a brilliant interview. And I still say until Al Ewing was doing the Immortal Hulk, Peter David's Hulk run is, to me, that's the gold standard.
Yeah, well, Peter took a character that had been a little bit in flux for several years and just remade the book completely through the sheer dint of really interesting different ideas, and I thought that he had a multiple year run on that book, which was phenomenal. And I was never a huge Hulk fan as a kid growing up, but I loved Peter's version of the character.
And I know we've got, let me see if I still have it around here. Oh yeah, the one of the ones you sent me was the Iron Man Armor Wars. Which this one, the only person I'm missing their signature on is Mark Bright. I've got David Michelini and Bob Layton signed that one. But this ad, again, it's one of those simple ads. This one isn't in color. It's just kind of gray tones, but it kind of sums up exactly what's going on. You see the people in the background, who he's going to go up against. Iron Man's ready to fight. That's a great ad.
Yeah, we usually did. We often did 3-color posters, like 2-color posters. Honestly, black is considered a color, and then red. And that was an 11x17. I'm pretty sure, not a 22x34. And we did them that way because they were cheap and cost effective. I could justify slotting a few of those into the budget for titles, single titles like this was Iron Man. I do remember the house ad because I sent it to you. The house ad was a great lesson for me very early in my career because I surprinted red type over the background and without a holding line on the red type on the headline, and the headline didn't read cleanly because of that. So I learned my lesson: try not to hold type over art behind it because it's not going to come through clean enough. I still remember it to this day. Every time I see that piece of art, no matter what, I think put a key line around or a drop shadow behind that type.
So the lesson definitely locked in for you then.
Yeah, I'm 60 years old. I really don't need that lesson anymore, but it still pops up in my head.
And one of the other ones you sent me for the house ad for New Warriors, you were on the book at that point, so
yeah,
that had been
weird.
A personal. I mean, you're obviously going to want to really tout this particular title. What was the formulation and kind of creating that house ad for New Warriors?
Well, I lucked out in a lot of ways because I think it was for this year we decided on a marketing program because we had 6 different titles launching, one a month from January to June. Each title was really different in terms of their approach and their thematically. So we decided to lump the launches as a campaign, and this was called the Heroes for the 90s campaign. And it included, I think, Namor, I think Ghost Rider, Guardians of the Galaxy, RoboCop. So I didn't have to worry about whether I was going to be fair or unfair to my own book,
right?
By giving it too much attention, because it was going to get equal attention to everything that was going to happen around it. In this particular case, I commissioned the art from Mark, which was that's a boy band album cover from the early 90s, late 80s. I forget which boy band it is. That's actually they pose that way on a subway. And
New Kids on the Block, maybe?
What?
New Kids on the Block, maybe?
I don't know if it was or not. I lose track of all those late 80s, early 90s boy bands. I was close to turning 30. I should not have been paying attention to them, and I wasn't. So Mark basically followed the visual that the photo had already put down, and then I knew that I wanted to put it with graffiti stuff around it and things like that, because I just wanted to send the message that I'm hoping to send a message that they're not exactly what you think they're going to be, because the perceptions of the book were already very different than what I knew the book was, based on their debut in Thor and based on how certain people had been improperly presenting it to the retail base and to the press, the fan press. I had a vested interest in trying to sell it as what I knew it was going to be, rather than what people were perceiving it to be.
Another one that was one of my favorites is this Sabotage poster. So if you're seeing this, I'm holding the poster up. It's framed. It's from the X-Force Spider-Man crossover, which was kind of chronicled Todd McFarlane's last run on the book as well.
That's got to be past my time, I'm pretty sure.
The reason I had you sign it is because you were writing at
that
time.
But
I'm trying to find, because I thought I had a date on it, but I thought this was 91.
It probably was, but I was probably moving over.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure I don't remember promoting X-Force #1. I don't remember promoting that.
Okay.
So I moved over at some point, and to this day I don't remember what month it was, but at some point in 91 I moved over from advertising to editorial, and I think it was around the summertime, but I just don't remember working on a lot of that X-Force stuff.
One of my favorite posters, and I couldn't find it to bring with me. I don't have it framed. It's just in a tube. But it's the Elektra Assassin poster that Bill Sienkiewicz did.
Yeah, that was gorgeous.
Which is absolutely amazing. So that was another. It's a mini series. So was there a reason behind doing the large 22 by 34 posters for certain books and not for others? This was a mini series, prestige format. Was it a little higher dollar point?
Look, listen. Epic had its separate budget, and we needed to allocate X amount of funds to Epic. Often Epic didn't return on that in terms of their sales, but it was a prestige line that also needed to pay attention to the artists and the writers, because they were prestige writers and artists. So I sunk parts of my budget into Epic, knowing that it wasn't necessarily going to increase sales and make the revenue, generate more revenue for the company, which is what the job is supposed to be. But you gotta make Bill Sienkiewicz feel good about the work he's doing for the company. You gotta make him feel happy that he's being attended to and respected, because quite frankly, you're an idiot if you're not attending and respecting Bill.
True.
So often Bill would come in with the piece he wanted, with the idea in mind. And we worked with him on a lot of things. Bill did a lot of work for us, a lot. He did like licensing folder paintings, and he did a Spider-Man wedding poster painting. And he'd come in with this stuff, and everyone in the department would just drop whatever they were doing because they wanted to see the unveiling. To this day, he opened up the Spider-Man Mary Jane wedding painting right in front of us, and it had actual like lace glued onto
my gosh.
the material, because back then Bill started working with multimedia stuff. He started actually putting things on the board. Then we'd have to send it out to get a transparency, which was always hard for them to do, because transparencies usually were covering the piece with a glass shield.
Right.
But he unveiled the Elektra poster, and it, it was there. That's all there was to it. There it was. I'm trying to remember whether I came up with the copy line or Archie Goodwin had. I don't remember. But it was ready made. I think I might have come up with that. I don't know. Maybe Frank did. I really forget half of this stuff because all of it was happening so
I'm
fast.
sure.
And often it was in collaboration. Maybe I come up with a copy line and they tweak it because they come up with a good idea to tweak it, or they come up with a copy line and then I tweak it because I come up with a good idea. So that a lot of this stuff ended up becoming a good ping pong back and forth. That Elektra poster is gorgeous. It's just a gorgeous piece of art. And yes, we wanted to sell a lot of copies of that book, and we did sell a lot of copies of that book.
Yeah.
I'm glad we did, because it deserved to be sold through the roof, Yeah,
that's one of the ones I haven't gotten framed, because I'm hoping I'll meet Bill at a convention. I've got that one and a couple other ones that I would love to have him sign. I've got the Question, Green Arrow, and Batman one that he did. So I've got some posters that, Bill, if you're listening,
I'm sure you find in your collecting quirk, you find that the creators, when you bring this stuff to them, often are ecstatic about it.
Yeah.
Because it's A, things that they haven't seen in a while, B, things they're not recognized for that often, and often they love that their work was shown and displayed that way. If 99% of what you see is a printed comic book cover and that's your art, seeing it on a 22 by 34 poster is a completely different way of looking at your own art. So it was really cool for a lot of these guys, which is why I got such great people to do the work, because they often were excited about the opportunity to present their art in a different manner.
And unfortunately, this hour has flown by. We're actually coming up on the very end of the show. We've got about 30 seconds left before I start playing the intro. Tell people where they can find you online, keep up with you, and once again, where they can find the Self-Made Widow. Okay, easiest way to get me online is always on Twitter. It's at Fabian Nicieza. I have open DMs, and I'm pretty interactive and responsive to people, unless they're jerks, then I just ignore them. So don't be a jerk is what it really amounts to. You can also see my website, which is FabianNicieza.com. It's the most easily spelled URL on the planet. So if you go to my website, you can also find access to ordering Suburban Dicks, which is on sale now, or pre-ordering The Self-Made Widow, which will come out in June. They are my first two novels. Suburban Dicks has been nominated for an Edgar Award by the Mystery Writers of America, which is like the Academy Award of mystery books, for best debut novel by an American author. So now I'm American. I got that going for me, even though I've always been an immigrant in my brain. So I hope people check the book out, because it's a whole new thing for me that I'm rather enjoying. We are glad that you're enjoying it. We love reading your material. Fabian, thanks so much for your time tonight. If you're listening right now, make sure you check out DiscoverStCharles.com. DiscoverSt.Charles.com, our premier sponsor. Great place to visit any time of year. If you're looking for someplace new to check out on your bucket list, check out DiscoverStCharles.com. Thank you, as always, to Joey V for making this show sound as good as it does. Thank you, Fabian, for your time. And for those of you listening, thank you very much. I look forward to coming back again, James.
This is the Big 550 KTRS St. Louis, Wildwood, DePere, Columbia, and the world.
Streaming live at KTRS.com.
From ABC News, I'm Chuck Severson. A White House confirming that President Biden accepted in principle a meeting with Russian President Putin if there's no invasion of Ukraine. A pro-Ukraine demonstration in Washington, Natalia Antonova says that she's talked with her family in the capital, Kyiv.